Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Evodia Mohanyane, and I am officially back on your screens on the live webinar at hashtag Secure the Grad. I must say, it feels so good to be back, and I want to say a huge thank you to Bonola Mahlatsi, who took on this very hot seat, but very comfortable, I must say. So, Bonola, you are wonderful. I watched a couple of webinars. You might ask, where was she? So, that's a secret for another day. But for now, it definitely feels good to be back with you on this platform. Today promises to be an amazing webinar. We've brought in the big wigs, as they say, in honor of Women's Month. We want to make sure that we usher you in with style, with grace, but with a lot of wisdom to make sure that you have all it takes to be successful in your career path. Now, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right into it. But before we move on, there's a few ground rules. Yes, through ground rules. We want to make sure that this webinar is as smooth as possible with very minimal glitches. So we're going to ask that you keep your mics muted and your cameras off. That's just to make sure that the recording is as effective for those of you who might want to rewatch or are currently watching us as we speak. So we also want to ensure that we capture who is part of the webinar today. So we're going to ask that you please join using your full name and surname. If you're a student at the UFS, please make sure that you join with your name, surname. Alternatively, you can also use your student number, and that will make sure that you are eligible to win a prize at the end of this webinar as advertised. Also, we want to engage with you in the webinar. So tell us how you're feeling. A poll will pop up on your screen. So what you just need to do is read the question, look at the options, pick your best option, click on submit, and your question will be answered. So we want to hear from you as we go along. One thing that we want to make sure that this webinar is as effective as possible is you can continue chatting with us in the chat box. Our lovely team will be there to answer some of your questions, and we will be having a Q&A segment right at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, without wasting any time, I'm going to be introducing our wonderful all-female panel this afternoon. And I'm going to start with Professor Brownhilder Neneh. She is not a stranger to many of you at the University of the Free State and those of you who are following her wonderful work. Professor Neneh, welcome with us on the platform. We're looking forward to having a conversation with you and hearing what you have been up to in your very busy schedule. Prof. Neneh is the Vice Dean of Research, Engagement, and Internationalization at the Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences here at the UFS. She's also a multi-award winner. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what we're talking about, one of the top 2 most cited researchers in the globe. So we didn't bring just fly-by-nights here. I promised you that we are coming back hot. So Professor Neneh, warm welcome and looking forward to hearing from you. Ladies and gents, we also have Sanet Solomon. Sanet is also a lecturer, international published author. Sanet is also a very well-renowned political analyst. Some of you who watched the elections might know that she was one of the commentators in our South African national elections this year. So Sanet, welcome. Looking forward to many conversations with you and very interesting conversations of how you've pivoted in your career. Ladies and gents, I'm not seeing any energy from our audience today. I don't know, is it just me? Or is it because the weather in Bloemfontein is a bit brown and crusty? But where is the love, Secure the Graders? I need to see it in the chat. I need to see it on my screen. So come, let's pull the atmosphere up. Let our guest speakers feel how it is to be on Secure the Grad. Ladies and gents, we also have Reabetswe Mabine. She is a marketing and communication strategist in the fast-moving goods industry. Some of you might know her from Center for Graduate Support, and she'll be talking about how she's also pivoted in her journey. Listen, award winner, some presidents of some associations, this is a firehouse that we're bringing to you. And last but not least, our wonderful Sibahle Mabaso, who is a theater maker and also assistant researcher at the Center for Teaching and Learning, also an award winner. So our panel today promises to really, really please. If you see yourself with a bright future and want to know from those who have pioneered the way, then you are definitely in the right place. So let us kick off our webinar. I'm just moving my screen. You can see it's like the first time I'm doing this. And this is, I think, webinar number 32. But I'm going to behave like it's webinar number 32 and not webinar number 1. I'm going to ask that our speakers do put on their camera so that we can see them. So, Prof. Neneh, let's kick off the conversation with you. Welcome once again. And before we start with the very generous questions, tell us a little bit more about yourself, what your role entails, and what we like here at Secure the Grad is, pop in a little bit of what many people don't know, just so that we feel like we're family on this platform. And last but not least, I would like to know, what does a typical day look like in that hot seat of yours? Oh, I see your microphone is not on.
Oh my goodness.
There we go.
There you have me. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Ivodia, for having me on the platform today. So I'm Brownhilder Neneh. I am indeed the Vice Dean of Research, Engagement and Internationalization at the Faculty of Economic and Management Sciences. And I also own a peer support group called She Believe, and we provide godly counsel to women to take up leadership position. So there's different hats I hold, but I'll just keep at that. How does my day look like? That's a good question. I'm a mom of 2 kids. So you begin the day with the 2 little babies, you get them to school. So round about before 8, I get to campus. And when I get to the office, I've got a team with which I work with. We plan for the day and we get the tasks done. Thereafter, it's in between answering emails and reading. I also have 7 students I'm supervising, so I get to read their chapters. I'm also a researcher, so I spend time on my research. And because of this position that I hold, there's a lot of planning for different events. So we spend time organizing events, getting keynote speakers, organizing sessions on research training, supervision training, and even a research day that is upcoming in October. So it's a whole lot of things that I get involved in. But so it's always a busy, busy day. And a day like yesterday, I went home around about 6:30, 7. That's when I left the office.
I like the fact that you're talking about the fact that you left at 6:30 while the kids are waiting for you. And I know a little birdie told me that you've just published a book on work-life balance and how we can learn from others on how to structure, such high positions, but also keep it on lockdown at home. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh yeah, that book, finally, it's going to be launched at the end of this month. So the book, it's Craft Your Win, a women's guide to achieving, I call their ideal work-life balance, because there's no such thing as you getting someone packing it for you. You have to craft your own. So there I provide little tips on what you need to do. But this is based on my research for so many years on women that I've done. And I've had to unpack that one to say, this is what you could do. And the book gives you exercises on how you can pack your own. At the end of the day, you see, this is what looks like for you and how you can apply it. So I wouldn't want to say a lot about it. So I'd rather say, come on the launch on the 30th of August, and then I can tell you more about the book.
We're definitely looking forward to that. And congratulations for such a big release. All right. So let's move over to Sanet. Sanet, welcome. Where are you? Let us see. Where is Sanet Solomon? Sanet, welcome. Let us know, how are you doing? A little bit about yourself and the role that you play in your work. And what does that typical day look like?
Thanks so much for having me. Everyone, hi. I have the opposite problem from you in Bloemfontein. I actually have too much heat, so Pretoria is quite hot, which is very problematic because I don't know how summer is going to be. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Political Sciences, in the Department of Political Sciences at UNISA. What do I want to say? I think like it's always difficult to summarize everything that you'd like to share. I serve as a co-program coordinator for the political leadership and citizenship degree, which just means like from time to time I get to advise students on what they do. A large portion of my job requires me to teach, so I teach both undergraduate and postgraduate students. So I teach second year South African politics and political science and research at honors. I get to supervise, which is quite great. So I get to supervise 6 honors students. I also have 6 master students, of which 4 are all mine, and 2 I get to co-supervise with senior colleagues. So that's exciting. A lot of my work also involves media work, which I think is quite exciting. So I get to do a lot of radio and television, and then also I obviously have to belong to some academic associations, which is a large portion of what we do as well. So a lot of my day would involve balancing all of these. I have to say, snacks obviously help. They really do. They make the day just more enjoyable. So have like fruits and so on. And I also would say music. That's like a great way. I like taking walks in between all of the meetings. That's also great. And I should admit that I am an alumnus of the University of the Free State. So it's actually quite exciting to be here with you today. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Sanet. I'm really looking forward to getting into the conversation with you later on, and for you as an alumni to actually take us back on memory lane on how you have landed such a prestigious role in academia. And listen, I watched you on TV, and I must say it was so good to hear product of the UFS really weighing in and giving some wisdom on, what we could expect in the future from this government of national unity. Sanet, keep it tight. We're going to get back to you soon. Ladies and gents, let us give a warm welcome to Reabetswe. Ria, welcome with us at Secure the Grad. Very similar to our previous guests. Let us know a little bit about you. I want to ask you something different. Do you also own a pet? It's my favorite question to ask some of our guests. Is Ria with us? I cannot see her microphone, neither can I see her camera. We're going to move to Sibahle, and as soon as Ria joins us, we'll have her up on screen. Sibahle, welcome with us on Secure the Grad. I see, there she is.
Oh, there
Ria,
she is.
welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I was wondering when we're going to see you. So I'm absolutely happy that you are here with us. Ria, what is happening in your role? A little bit about yourself, and give us a glimpse of what it's like to be in your position.
All right. So as you've mentioned, my name is Reabetswe Mabine, and I am a brand manager for a growth consulting company based in Johannesburg and Bryanston. And what I typically do is that I work with multinational brands in the fast movable, consumable FMCG industry. I'm a bit tongue twisted there. What we basically do in the company is that we provide strategies and innovation support to build brand equity for these companies, and basically launch products that will be profitable for the companies. So a typical day in my life, like Prof Neneh, I'm also a mom and I'm a wife. So my days get a bit hectic. I have an 11th month daughter, so I'm still a new mom. My baby's still quite young, so in the morning I get ready, wait for my helper to come in, and once she comes in, I hand over my child, get ready for work. As soon as I get into the office, one thing about my line of work is that you never really know what to expect. Mm-hmm. So one day I'm working with a care log, for example, and I'm working on an innovations there. And as I'm trying to, sort out that, I get a call from an SC Johnson to say, hey, we actually have another project that we'd need innovation support on. And then in incongruent with that, I handle the branding of the consulting company internally. So that is coming up with brand building equity strategies, social media strategies. I do the whole rollout for social media as well. And in my spare time, I am a nature baby. I'm one with nature. I love taking hikes, walking barefoot on the grass. It calms my nervous system. And in a nutshell, that's that.
It's so wonderful to have you here. Big ups to all the moms in the room. Man, you guys are doing a lot. Listen, I think the future belongs to the females. I'll just pause it right there, looking forward to our conversation later. Last but not least, Sibahle Mabaso. Sibahle, welcome with us. You have the interesting final spot. You get to tell us a little bit about your role and what it looks like in your role in a typical week or a typical day. Welcome with us, Sibahle.
So much. Thank you, Sister Wodia. Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here and just standing, I don't know the expression, but standing on the shoulders of giants. So I'm equally nervous, but super excited to be here to share a bit more about myself as well. So as Sister Wodia said, I am Sibahle Mabaso, and I'm an assistant researcher at the Center for Teaching and Learning by day. But by night, I am also a full-time student. I'm doing my master's in gender studies and a full-time theater maker. So, a typical day in my life as an assistant researcher, because I'm an assistant researcher for graduate attributes as well as digital skills and competencies. So those two institutional projects, I basically take on an administrative role with operational tasks. So I assist graduate attributes with quality assurance. We do a lot of prepping for workshops as well. I see my line manager is here. A lot of reviewing content as well. That's also for digital skills building on Blackboard. So you would see that organization there. Please check it out. There's just a lot of those tasks. And then as a theater maker, a typical day in my life is very, very unconventional, and you can't really say that this is the life of a theater maker because it depends per project. It's either I'm working on, maybe I'm coaching or I'm directing or I'm writing or I'm presenting my work to a board of investors. It really fluctuates, but where I usually find myself and where I usually thrive is within the rehearsal space when I'm directing and working on a production. So that's often dynamic. It happens usually in the evenings, 3 hours a day, sometimes longer on the weekends, and warm ups, all of those things. But what do I enjoy doing? I kind of agree with Sis Ria. I love being barefoot. I love listening to music. I love writing. Obviously, I'm a creative, and I love networking and talking to people and hosting picnics. A day in my life, I already mentioned it, but in the morning, I'm not a mom, but I do salute all mothers. I'm not a mother, but I wake up in the morning, I live with my partner, and I make my partner coffee. And then I just plan my day. I live close to campus. So in taking a walk to campus, I just meditate a bit, pray, just set myself straight. What do I have to do for the day? Get to the office. Everyone usually has a coffee. Sometimes we pray in the mornings. So we do that. And then for the first hour, I usually do admin. And then usually my lunch times don't go to lunch because it's either I'm having meetings for my craft, now my artistic practice. So I usually sacrifice my lunchtime to see my supervisor or to work on other elements of my craft as well that are not work related. And then after work, it's usually rehearsals. But right now I'm kind of taking a creative break. So after work, it's just me time and my academics. Such a pleasure to be here.
Wow, man. You think you know people till you hear their stories. And I think quite a versatile group or panelists that are here with us. And so interesting to see that you can have a little bit of everything depending on how you manage your plate. Now we're going to circle back to you, Prof. Neneh, just to maybe take us through a little bit around your career journeys. We know some career journeys are very linear. You start off from school, you immediately get at university, you land your dream job, and the world is your oyster from there onwards. And we know some of them have some hills and valleys, as we'd like to call them here, twists and turns. And some careers don't always go perfect, but we're very interested to hear how your journey has been in your career. Prof. Neneh, I think did we mute your microphone? I think we might have accidentally muted. Sorry.
I don't know. So I got my PhD at 26. This is not bragging, but just to tell you that I was 26 years old when I became a doctor, and very young, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to start. So the first year I worked part-time in the university. And the year after I went to the industry. And in the industry now, I had to do marketing. So imagine you have a PhD in business management and specializing in corporate finance. And then now you do marketing. So a little bit of everything I learned in class with the management background, I had to put it in there. So I want to tell everyone that sometimes your first job is not what you think you're going to get, but you need to go out there and get it. So 2016, I was back at the UFS, and I was appointed as a senior lecturer. And as a senior lecturer, yeah, I did all the work of teaching, doing research. Come 2018 now, I was appointed associate professor, and thereafter I was made head of department. So just to add to it, before I even became head of department, I interviewed for that position when my baby was 3 months old. So I got into management with the baby 3 months old. So carrying everything with me was hectic. And like everyone is putting on the chat box, I had to find a balanced life, which I got, to being married, having kids. And then in 2022, I became full professor. And then last year, October, I was appointed vice dean. So I was vice dean, I was head of department. And so early this year, I decided to say, talking about balance, I should step down. So I stepped down as head of department and I carried on with the role as vice dean. And I still supervise students, and here and there I teach classes. And I said I've got a peer support group. So there's a whole lot I'm doing. So my career has been, maybe I would say academia, but there's a lot of consultations I do out of academia, a lot of advocacy for women I do. But I started off like everyone to say, you just find a job. And the first thing you see, you get into it, but you prove yourself. So I've learned that regardless of where you are, you need to start from somewhere. So when you see the first thing coming, don't say, but I've got a PhD, it's not for me. No, go for what you have and prove yourself and prove that you can be the best at that job, because it's only from there that the next one is going to open. People see you, people talk about you, and people hear about your work. So that's something I'm going to encourage everyone here today to say, that your first job is not your ending point. It is the starting point. So pay attention to that.
Very interesting journey. I think when one looks from the window, one could easily say, PhD 26, HOD, and all these beautiful accolades. One could really just imagine that it must have been a smooth ride from start to finish. With that being said, I want to hear, how has your experience been in the world of work, especially having occupied different positions at different levels, and that might bring different complexities?
Yeah, I'm going to be blunt here. It's been very rewarding, but also very challenging. So I'm not sure where I should begin with the challenge. I think I must touch on the challenging part. You know, being very young in your 30s, managing a department, having a spouse, having kids comes with a lot of challenge. And we're managing a department, managing personalities. So there are bound to be personality clashes, and you have a lot of people today, you say this, tomorrow they say that, and all the fighting. So you have to grow up overnight, and you can't cry about everything that goes wrong. And you have to be mature in the way you handle problems and how you show up. So there are days you don't feel like showing up because something happened, but you show up shaking, you show up crying, but you show up in that. So, and again, because I was HOD, I was also associate professor. I didn't see myself ending at that level. So it was one end managing the department. It was another one trying to advance my career to become a full professor. It was another one trying to be the best mom to my daughter. And in between, the third year, I had my son. So it was me also wanting to have the balanced life of, I've always loved family, wanted my kids, wanted all of that. So for me, that was very important. And I said, you know what, one cannot function without the other. So either way, I'm going to get into it and I'll figure it out. So the aspect of carrying multiple hats was always a challenge. But you know what? I said, you know what? You take it one day at a time. You learn to drop off things. At one point, I presented classes at the business school, besides the class I presented in my department. So I started thinking, you need to drop that one. So when you, as a family is growing, you prioritize things. Your kids come first, but the job also is very important. And you learn to know when to prioritize managing your time. So I think that is what has led to this book of mine that I've written today. The rewarding part is the fact that hard work does pay off. So I had to work my butt off. I had to know that I told myself, if I'm in academia, I cannot be there for so many years. I don't want to be a full professor at the age of 40. No, that's not for me. If I'm not going to get it in my 30s, then I'd rather go back to corporate. So that for me was working hard, hard, hard. And by 2022, already, imagine I started 2016, I was already full professor. So it came with a lot of sacrifices and hard work. So at the end of the day, did I get what I want? Yes, but it came with a lot of commitment and sacrifices. And being in management has just been a blessing. I've been exposed to all the rooms of you sit in high tables and sometimes you have to find yourself. So I had to find my voice in between. And sometimes I went to the meeting shaking, not knowing who I am, but I had to learn to say, you know what, if I'm in this space, it's because I belong there. I'm not going to leave from that meeting without giving my voice. I'll have to find me. So I'm speaking to someone here today to say, you know what, when you go somewhere, you need to find yourself, you need to talk and don't make all the wrong noises. Make the right noises where it's supposed to be heard.
Love that statement. Make the right noises, because I think we are also a generation that can easily see problems. And what do you do when you see those problems? Which I want to maybe tap into your story a little bit. We know that academia is not a space like any other industry, or at least sector, is not an easy sector to get into. What would you say are barriers that people can use that are usually experienced, particularly in the academic space in academia?
I think that's and I've been blessed to experience that as well. I know what it means to stand in an EBW presenting classes to 800 students. I've had that. So I know how overwhelmed you get being very young. So you have the whole workload of presenting class. You've got students you're supervising and you have your own career to advance. So, and you have a family life. So all of that is the challenge you come. And then you have the pressure of timelines, exam papers, test papers, all of that are coming down on you every day. So one thing I'll tell a young researcher and the younger version of myself is the fact that, you know what, you must find a mentor. And I'll tell you what I did. That changed my career. I decided to go for a conference. So I looked for the best, and that was in Italy. And when I got to that conference, there was this lady that I've seen her work in women and everything she did. I went and introduced myself, being very shy. I said, you know what, show up crying, show up shaking, but just show up. I told her, I want you to mentor me. So when I got back to South Africa, I sent her an email. She said, okay, the plan is that you need to take an exam for ethics. She gave me a lot of things to do. I did it. It was a lot of hard work. And then I had to write the paper. And that's one of the best. She's a very distinguished professor, one of the best in the world. And then you have to write something for her to critique. That took a lot of courage. But you know what? I said, what's the worst that can happen? It's a piece of trash, throw it in the bin. But then she tells you what needs to be done. So I would advise a younger version of you is the fact that go and find a mentor, find people that are much older than you that know that they have been there, they have the experience. Also find people that look like you that you can pull yourself together and write. And have a timeline for when you want your promotion. It's easier to sit there and say, I want a promotion next year, and you don't plan for it. There are criteria in terms of promotion that you need to adhere to. If they say 5 published articles, have a plan. Like even now, when I supervise students, I take it in mind to say, the 2 of them submitted in July, the other 2 perhaps in November. So you have to plan for yourself. Don't just sit and say, yeah, the work is too much. Plan. Have conversations with your line manager and tell them, if you need time off, in a week, you could request a week or a day off and you spend it on research. So even now, there are days that I block my calendar to say from 1 to 4, I'm focusing on my research. Regardless of what is urgent, I put in the work during that time. So I'll tell a younger version to say that juggling all hats, it's tough, but there is a level of commitment. You need to know what you want. Are you just the teaching person or are you the research part? And the more you do research, the more you even become better at your teaching, because what you take to class is what is evidence-based. So I would encourage you to say, it's a challenge to balance all the workload, but you need to plan. You can always plan to teach, which is to teach for 2 hours. You plan the whole night. That's the same plans you need to put in for your research. And I had to learn little baby steps. I decide to say, this is the topic I want to work on. Then I say, every 2 days, I'm going to write 1 paragraph. I write it. So I structure my research not to sit and write all at once. I write a little bit. And then at the end, when I compile it, it makes sense. So I've had to figure out for myself what would work for me. So I'll tell the younger version of you to say that if the plan is to be in academia, you need to have timelines for yourself. When do you want to become an associate professor or full professor? What does it entail? The first thing is the promotion criteria. I had that on, that's like a little Bible for me. I had it on my table. What does it say I need? I even took my CV to Henriette with a mentor. I said, have a look at it. Where are my gaps? Often you don't want to know the things that you lack in. Get someone honestly to tell you where are your real gaps. And every day, even if you have to cry about the things that you lack in, know that these are the gaps, and then ask yourself, what are the action plans? What do I need to work towards? If the year says I need to publish 2 articles, what is the plan for that article? If I have to go for conferences, what is the plan? Because if you don't plan, the year will go take you by in academia and you get up and you're like, yeah, 2024 just passed by, but I did not publish. So are all plans going to materialize? Of course not. So you need to sometimes lower your expectations, because as you send the articles out, the rejections come. But that is when you need to have as much as possible. And you need to partner with like-minded people to write, because the more you write in teams, the more you learn. And upskill yourself, attend workshops, self-learn what you need to learn. Go out there, find people that can teach you, and be honest about your weaknesses. So that is as much I'll tell the younger version of myself. And keep trying and trying and trying. Every day, make a deliberate effort to focus on that little part of your dream, because when you add little chunks of it, then it becomes success.
Those wisdoms pearls are like drop. Guys, listen, I told you when we started this webinar that we are not here to play. We are not here. Listen, drop the mic right there. I'm gonna walk away. I think we're done. But let me zone back in. Prof. Neneh, you have the privilege of also sitting at the hiring table and deciding who gets to be part of your team. And I want to ask, in your view and your experience as a recruiting manager, what makes an individual competitive, especially, let's say we know we graduate annually over 1,500 graduates, especially in the EMS faculty. And if 10% of those are cum laude graduates, they're good, they're ready, they have publications already, who would get the job? What would set that one candidate apart in your view?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very tough question to answer, because I sit in those interview panels all the time. So it depends on the position we're looking for. So when I pick up a CV, how you structure that CV of yours to tell me who and what you do. I want to look at all-roundedness. You've done a little bit of here and there, your publication, and again, I'll speak specifically to the academia. If I had to appoint somebody, if I say your research is on women, I want to see what have you done. Because if you're a little bit everywhere too, then it doesn't tell me how good you are there, what you've presented class in. And I sometimes I even go broader than just looking at I put on you on Google and I see what is it about you that you've done that tells me this is the person that I'm bringing in. So for a young person, I'll tell you that you with no experience, I'll tell you that the first thing to do is not to just say your CV is that you got a cum laude, because there's so many of them out there. Go and get some experience. And when I presented classes, I told them at the bridge, that's the starting point. You need to go there. There are no free things. This something you must give. So if you have the attitude of saying, I want to take, then you have an empty CV. So how about you go and volunteer for 2 hours a week? And then you do the work, and then they teach you the skills, and then you can put in your CV, and then you have a real reference that when a recruiter calls to say, yeah, they can even tell them to say, this one came and worked for me for free, and she did 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think this is going to be the best in the job. So I would advise everyone to say that in this era also, you cannot say that you don't have experience. Social media also, with the use of tech and AI, there's so much opportunities on how you can leverage your skills. A lot of people are doing things, online videos, their marketing is selling their skills. So how about you do that? Because recruiters are looking for people who are versatile, who are all-rounded, who can do a little bit of here and that, and not just saying, I'm only good in marketing, I'm not good in sales. No, they want all-rounded people. So I'll tell you to say, look for career fairs, attend the career fairs. And also, if you want to get into a particular industry, read about them, look at their culture, look at their values, look at the current projects you're working, look at the best in that team, follow them, see what they see, and look at the things you're doing. And often, sometimes the post comments, questions, go and comment on it. And when you go for networking sessions, I advise you, don't keep quiet, because often nobody knows about you because you're quiet. And I say, make the right noise. If you're going to raise up your hand, do raise it. But the opportunity you get, you must make the right noise. So at the end, everyone is saying, I would like to talk to you. Can I get your business card? Who are you? So I'll tell that younger version of yourself to say, spend time, instead of spending time watching movies all the time, which is good because I'm a lover of movies. Almost every night I watch movies on Netflix. That is how I relax every night. All the soapies, all the gossips I can tell you about because I do watch at them. But make time for yourself to upskill yourself. So I'll talk about learn, unlearn, and relearn. That has to be the order of the day because the job market these days prescribes more than what you studied in school. There's no textbook is going to give you everything you've learned in school. You are responsible for crafting the version of you that you want to see out there and employers want. So if you know you want something, look at that industry, look at what is trending, look at who you are, do a self-assessment. What do I have? What do I not have? Spend the time and learn. So the word learn, unlearn, and relearn becomes your everyday word. That is the only way you're going to strive in the current world of work that we live in.
Brilliant there. Remember, learn, unlearn, and relearn. Prof. Neneh, we're going to circle back to you as we move over to Sanet. Sanet, you have quite an interesting career, moving right from student leadership into academia, into publishing, into teaching. Tell us a little bit about how your journey has unfolded.
Yeah, so I should admit that I may be like quite close to the students in age, so just as a disclaimer. So I think my journey would be like still at its start. So I actually started working as a registration assistant on campus. So I don't know if you remember those kids who walk around saying, "Ask me." I was one of the Ask Me students. And I think one of the things that he taught me was to put yourself out there, especially as an introvert. From there, I obviously participated in activities on Res. I got to be vice prime at my residence. And while it seems like something that is quite small, it teaches you discipline. It teaches you to show up every day and to be there for others and to live the way you would want the people following to actually live, so being exemplary. Then at the start, I think I then became an academic tutor, and then I became an academic facilitator. That was quite exciting. I got to tutor some quad students. Those were like some of the most amazing people that I got to meet during my time as a student. And one of the things that I learned from the quad students is that regardless of what you don't have, there's so much more that you do have. And if you apply yourself, you'd be able to succeed in so many different ways. Then I managed to facilitate larger classes. And I think from there, I realized that this is actually something that I wanted to do. I wanted to work with students. I then had the privilege of working at CTL as the UFS 101 attendance coordinator. So now that was an interesting one because not only was I still in my early 20s, I actually had to manage a team of people who were slightly older than me. So that was quite challenging, but also quite exciting. I mean, there we got to learn so much about the different ways in which you could share information, the different ways in which you can assist students on their success journeys and so on. And I think by also having an opportunity to actually evaluate the teaching assistants, I was like, okay, this is something that I would definitely like, something that I'd like to explore a little bit more and put myself into. And I was like, okay, this is very unconventional, but I'm going to quit my permanent job and I'm going to pursue my master's. I know that was like wild at the time. It is very unconventional and definitely not something that a lot of people would recommend. So during this time, I started my master's. I gave birth to my daughter, and I worked as a student assistant. So it was very interesting. I got to get like work experience, so working 5 hours a week. I got to do like some research at night, and I mean, who doesn't want to work at the lab? It's so nice, like getting to interact with everyone. And during that time, I also got to do some research. From my honors, I had the privilege of actually publishing my first publication, which was an honors assignment, but it's also my first publication, which was published in a Sage journal. I was like, okay, maybe I just have the ability to do this, so let's completely throw ourselves in there and let's pursue it. I then got to do some risk analysis for a risk company. I think that was also quite exciting, where I got to do risk for, I would say, there's not much you can say when you have like signed an NDA, but it was some of the biggest mineral companies in the world. I mean, like when you see some of the names, you're just shocked at the privilege of actually looking at all of the dynamics in the country and so on. So from all of this, I was like, how can I take my career journey, everything that I've learned, and then find a way to package all of those skills into one job? And I was like, okay, cool, we are doing this academia thing. And that's when I applied for my first teaching position. Again, quite overwhelming. I became a lecturer, still in my 20s, and then that was quite exciting. So I got to do research, I got to do some teaching. That was the first time I got to also supervise students. You get to external examine other people's students, so that's also quite exciting. And I remember that's when I got to interact in the media a bit. So one of the things that I've learned from this career journey that I've had is that your path doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't necessarily have to make sense to anyone, but you can take all of the different aspects of what you've already learned and you can apply it to something that you really want to do. And I am so grateful for each of these jobs, because I mean, they created this holistic being that I think of myself as being. I mean, who would have thought that tutoring quads, being at ICT, and then also doing risk analysis and so on would then allow you to be an academic that understands not only the students' journeys, but different ways in which you can teach those students, interact with those students, and actually then create research from your interactions with those students as well as what you've learned. So I think that's been like my exciting journey in terms of moving towards academia.
It sounds like a recipe for some very interesting meal. Take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that, but at the end of the day, trusting the process. So that's really one thing I'm learning from your journey, that one needs to definitely trust the process. So how can students learn about roles in different careers? So let's say I've studied a degree in statistics. How does one align qualifications with skills and a bit of the experience that you pick up along the way, and put that together in some form of a career in a particular industry? How can students bring these concepts together?
That's actually quite exciting. So one of the things that I often think that students don't realize is how versatile different careers is and how versatile different qualifications is. I think that when you start with your career path, like I think it's easier for those students if you're studying nursing, you're going to be a nurse. If you're studying economics, you can be an economist, etc. But I think especially for the students in the humanities, we often find ourselves wondering what we can do. I think what I would definitely recommend starting is just looking at the different pathways that your discipline opens itself with. I would say, secondly, find people who've studied similar careers or similar degree programs as you. You would be surprised at what people manage to do with their degree program. I know someone who studied philosophy and they work in banking. So that's something that you don't see every day. I would say attend sessions like this where you get to interact with people who studied either similar things as you. I know that the UFS, but also other universities have career fairs. Those are always amazing. Think about the kind of companies that you want to work for or the kind of industry that you want to work for, and then also align yourself with that. But again, be flexible. A lot of disciplines also have professional bodies. And if you join these professional bodies, I think it's also a great way of exposing yourself to other people who studied similar things but are in different ways. So from my personal experience, I did my BA in governance and political transformation. I did my honors in political sciences, and then I did my master's also in governance and political transformation, but I'm doing my PhD in something completely, slightly different, African politics. So one of the things that I've learned is decide what you want to do, especially for the humanities students. You can go into government, you can work for research institutes, you can work for private practice. Your like it's basically you have this unlimited scope. Once you've decided which direction you want to do, I would say then draft a list for yourself of possible companies that you'd want to work in, but also the kind of skills that you need to acquire. And I love what Professor Neneh said, where you would have these lists of things that you have to work on, and unfortunately, like, you would then have to tick the boxes. For those who would want to go into academia, for example, you need to have some teaching experience. One of the easiest ways of doing that is either going into facilitating or going into teaching. You need to do research. And one of the easiest ways to do that is start with op-ed pieces, which is 800 words, which is 1,000 words. Newspapers allow for you to submit that, and so on. Maybe start publishing in a DHET accredited journal, which is just a journal accredited by the Department of Higher Education and Training, and you could possibly consider doing this with one of your supervisors. Unfortunately, I decided to travel the route less traveled, which is publish by yourself and aim for international publications. And while it sounds extremely crazy, it actually works. I mean, I got to publish in International Affairs, Taylor and Francis, Sage, Palgrave, Springer, which is amazing, especially in the field that I'm in, because it's so unusual for someone to like just pursue that, but do that. You would have to do community engagement. So one of the things that people don't know about academics is that you need to give back to the communities in which you find yourself. And this could be, if you work in gender studies, maybe having a pad drive. If you work, for example, in my field, I work on issues related to elections, you can then give commentary in terms of that. So find a way to connect with the community that you come from. And then I would say lastly, remember that you are not a silo. So you need to belong to your academic association. So in my case, I am a member of the South African Association for Political Sciences, and I am the youngest member of council. Yes. I also joined the International Association for Political Science Students, which is also like great because it allows you to connect with students similar to what you do, not only in your country, but your continent and the rest of the country, but also like broaden your horizons, think international organizations as well. So in my case, again, it's the British International Studies Association and the International Political Science Association. And from all of this, you would see how many similarities you share with people, not only in your country, but also in the continent and abroad. So I would say, in terms of all of this, decide where you want to go. And once you've decided and you found your true north, just move in that direction and it would all be worth it.
I want to latch on to that, Sanet. So if you had to give tips to our students, and I see a lot of them are asking already in the chat, about the importance of career preparation and why it matters, what would you say to them?
I would say that it takes a lot to prepare for your career, and unfortunately, one of the challenges is that many students start at the latter half of their journey, meaning that they're starting at the first semester of their third year and so on. But I would say whether you are starting at your first year and or whether you are starting at your third year, it doesn't all have to be a waste. I think one of the things that you need to do is find obviously what you like doing, and then find a way of attaching that to what you are studying. For example, I had a friend who studied engineering, but then she wanted to do environmental science. But now she's an environmental scientist. I mean, those are not necessarily things that you think you can merge, but you can do that. Secondly, ask for help. You would be surprised how many people are still in their 30s or 40s and thinking about their next pivot, which career field they're going to go in next. I mean, like Professor Neneh, you could, for example, start out in industry and then go into academia. So it doesn't have to be all of that. Then thirdly, I think that one of the things that I would say is, like, it does take a lot of work. It is quite scary to sit down, map out what you want to do with your life. But once you do that, and once you go through that challenging process, it would all be worth it. And then I would say also go to career services on campus. They do amazing work in terms of helping you how to tailor your CV for your specific like for your specific career path. Then the other thing that I would also say is don't wait until the end. For example, you have 6 months until the end of your degree, for example. Then go volunteer for those 6 months. Try to work at the library. Put your hand up if they're saying they need tutors. I mean, if you walk on campus, there's so many notice boards, there are so many posters all over the place, and you would be surprised that if you actually put yourself out there, that you actually can get some of those opportunities. And while it may seem like quite daunting trying to balance your work with your volunteer work, at least you'll have something. And always, I would say, try to do something that would set you apart from your peers, because rightfully there are so many of us that graduate with similar degree programs. So what is it that's going to make you stand apart? And it would be very small things, like working in a restaurant, for example. It teaches you people skills, it teaches you how to communicate effectively, it teaches you time management, and so on. So don't look down at any job. I would say try to learn what you can at that point in your time, but really do put in that time. Like if you get home today, just sit, take out your piece of paper, and then decide, where is it that I want to go, what is it that I need to do to get there. And then once you have that, the in-betweens you can fill in, the details we can sort out. Remember, it's not linear, it's all over the place, but it matters that we'll eventually get to where we need to be.
I rest my case. The grad is the place to be. You have heard it from Sanet Solomon. Sanet, thank you so much. We're going to circle back to you. And I think one of the questions I want to put a pin on is maybe talking to us about some of those challenges that students experience if they want to get in these industries. Ladies and gents, our first poll has popped up on the screen, and we want to know, have you established a clear career path and set goals in your academic journey? Yeah, are your options yes? Your career goals are well defined, yes, but your plans can change over time. No, I don't have a specific career goal. And no, I just want to focus on my studies and I'm not sure. Pick your option and click on the submit button, and that's all it takes. We want to hear from you. So, Ria, let's pivot to you and hear a little bit about, you are not in academia, but you are what we would call as someone who's right in industry. How has your journey looked like? And I want to weave in a second question there, which is, if you can tell us a bit, while you were studying, did you have any clear goals? And have they since changed in this career journey of yours? Over to you, Rian. We're very excited to hear in this shift from you.
Yeah. All right. So my journey was quite not the linear journey, but I thank God that I eventually found my true north. So growing up, I have always been that one child who'll get on the tables, dance, and entertain. I remember my mom telling me the story that every day before 8, when Generations was still a thing, just right before it came on, I would get on the table and dance and entertain my family. So growing up, looking back, I think I've always had a love for the media, entertainment, and marketing industry. But at that time, I did not have the resources and the information in terms of how to best align my skills and education towards that path. So when I was 12, I auditioned for Yo TV. They were looking for children presenters, and I remember enjoying just like how the audition went, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is actually what I want to do with my life. Unfortunately, I did not get the presenting gig, but it gave me an idea to say, hey, this is actually something that you could pursue. So I then enrolled for a BA journalism degree, and a lot of people don't know the story, at the University of the Free State. 6 months into it, I knew this was not what I wanted to do. Unbeknownst to my parents, I deregistered for this degree, and I went to the career offices and I took a aptitude, or what we call a personality test. And from that personality test, I had 3 options. Option 1 was marketing. option 2, law, and option 3, accounting. So what this taught me is that, so marketing has always been my thing, right? Taking it from my upbringing and the type of child I was. And the accounting said to me, maybe you are a data analytical person. And the law said to me, well, you probably just like to talk, which I do. So I then pivoted into that and I enrolled for a BA Corporate Marketing and Communications degree. Luckily, the modules I did for journalism almost aligned, so I didn't have to repeat my first year altogether. You can imagine the shock on my parents' face at the end of the year when I came back and said, well, I'm not doing journalism anymore. But it all worked out in the end. So as I was studying my undergraduate degree, I explored a lot of fields, just trying to get a sense of where do my talents lie? Where do my strengths lie? So my first job was at a media and production company in Bloemfontein, where we actually created content for government departments. So we would cover events and the likes. In that, being the innovative person I've always been, I sat down with a team and we created a show called Golden Circle. And the aim of the show was to basically profile what youth in the Free State are doing. We entered the show for an award under SATMA, which are the South African Traditional Music Awards. By God's grace, we won the award, and our TV show was aired on national TV. After that, I thought, okay, so I've done a little bit of media production. And while I had that job, I was working in government departments. I worked at the office of the Free State Premier, and I worked with very closely with the mayor as well. So I almost like had an idea of what corporate and internal communications looked like in the government space. And I said, okay, so I have an idea of what this is, but this doesn't quite truly align with what I did. So in that, I had a friend who, and we will talk, I think, or touch on the power of networking. I had a friend who knew DJ Spoo, and at that time, DJ Spoo was actually launching his first book. If you have followed DJ Spoo's journey, it was around the time that he had just launched More Fire, and he wrote a book about entrepreneurship. So I said, listen, can you connect me with DJ Spoo, guys? I am 19. I don't have a degree. I don't have PR experience, but I have a lot of ambition. So I sat down with DJ Spoo and I said, I know that you're doing a national PR campaign launching your book. I have media contacts in the Free State. I know people, and I can get you the type of launch and the media attention that you want. And these are networks and contacts I've gotten over my time working with this media and production company, working with the Free State government, where I would have to contact various media houses to cover stories. So I had the network. I was also part of certain organizations that I'll get into now. And I went to Audi and I said, listen, I actually am part of this organization and I know that you're one of the sponsors. I have DJ's Boost coming to Bloemfontein and he's launching his book. Can you borrow me a car? At the age of 19, I was driving DJ's Boo around in an Audi A4. So, long story cut short, the event was successful. DJ Boo was able to sell out the number of copies he had, and I thought, okay, so personal branding, brand management, and PR is actually something that I like. So I then continued my journey, and through the work that I had done with DJ Spoo, I met my first mentor. Her name is Tato Mokoto. I think some of you might actually know her. She's quite big in the construction industry in the Free State. She then elected me to be a youth president for a female organization called Phenomenal Women, which basically aims to capacitate females in business. And we sort of like brought the resources together to say, how do we get these women out there? How do we get them the networks that will help them push their businesses? I was then asked to say, listen, launched a youth chapter in the Free State for these young pioneers. I pulled in my resources and I launched Phenomenal Women Youth right there in the University of the Free State. I remember the event had over 150 young female students who had a hunger and a passion to basically just go into the business industry. Through my work with the organization, I was then awarded in 2018 Young Woman of the Year by the Free State Heron Awards. And through the publicity I got there, I was approached by Brand SA to be a Play Your Part ambassador. All while I was doing my BCom honors marketing. So I still found the time to align and to sort of like establish where my passions were and where my skills lied. So then I went into academia and I started at the Department of Communications and Marketing, where I did brand management, reputational management of the university's brand. And I did internal communication, and I then went to the Center for Graduate Support. I think that's where most of you know me from, where I was responsible for managing postgraduate students and making sure that they have a good campus experience. So I sat there and I said, okay, so I have all this corporate communications, internal communications, PR experience, but I felt that I wasn't truly aligned with my true north. I took a risk and I resigned from the University of the Free State without a job. I went and I sat home and I said, okay, so this is what I've done thus far. This is my experience. These are my passions. And I already knew at that time from my work with phenomenal women that I wanted to do purpose-led work. I wanted to create an indelible impact in other people's lives. And I think also with growing up, you move from choosing careers based on I want to succeed, I want the salary, I want the car, I want the house, to how do I make an indelible impact and a change in people's lives. So I sat there unemployed and I said, okay, what type of job would give me the type of fulfillment and purpose alignment that I need for this season in my life? I then said, I actually want to work in corporate. I'd never worked in corporate before. And I said, this is the test for me. Growing up, I always knew that I wanted to work with multinational brands. I wanted to work with Kellogg. And I remember after I had graduated with my undergraduate degree, I had written down, I want to work with Kellogg. I want to work with SC Johnson. I want to work with Unilever. I want to work with P&G. And I just knew from that moment, I needed to think about, okay, Rhea, what is your end goal? So what is that one role that you want to occupy before you retire? And I said, Lord, I know it is definitely in marketing, it's definitely in FMCG, it's definitely in product innovation. And I had to think, okay, between then and now, what are the steps that I need to take in order to get there? So I already had experience, I already had skills, but my skills were not quite aligning to the industry that I wanted. But I knew that I wanted to do purpose-led work. So when I saw my position advertised, something in me said, I know this is it. I applied for the position, got an interview. My boss said to me, why should we give you the job? I said, listen, I know I don't have the experience in FMCG, but I know I'm smart, I'm a hard worker, and I am adaptable. And here we are. A few months later, I got the opportunity to work with the brands that I had wanted to work with over 5 years ago, where I am walking to a Kellogg doing a product innovation where you can walk into stores and you're like, oh, I was in the room when this product was being conceptualized. I'm working with companies like SC Johnson that houses Kiwi and Nixoderm, which are products that are being sold all over Africa. So just in a nutshell, that's my career journey.
What a packed career journey. Look, very inspirational and also very brave to sort of say, without a job knocking at your door, that I'm just going to pause and rethink. I know there's a question that often comes up. What do you choose between passion or pay? And some people tend to think you can't have them both at the same time, but listening to your story sounds like you went all in for passion and it paid, baby. So what I want you maybe to talk to us about are what habits, based on your experience, would students need to implement or what they need to get into in order to improve themselves and improve their chances to get employed or start that business?
Mm. So I would say, again, start with the end goal in mind. So if you are a student studying finance, your end goal would probably be head of finance at Investec, right? Or if you're a marketing student, your end goal probably be marketing director or head of marketing at a Kellogg or an SC Johnson, right? And then you need to sit down and think, between then and now, what are those practical steps that I need to take, and what are those actions that I need to sort of delve into to get there? So you're probably now a student in your second or first or final year, and you already have an idea to say, okay, these are the type of roles that I want to occupy at the end of my career. You need to then think, do these roles then align with my talents? Do they align with what I'm good at? And I mean, as a person, as you grow, you evolve, and you realize that actually I used to like this years ago, and maybe I don't like it as much as I used to. But what are those core talents and passions that drive you, right? And you need to ask, do they align then with your end goal? I would then advise people to then go on LinkedIn, go and search for the people that are occupying the types of careers that you want to typically be in, right? And look, okay, what type of experience do they have? What type of companies did they work at? And you need to look at yourself and say, in order to bridge the gap, what do I need to do now? So with me, I always knew that I wanted to be in marketing, and I knew for some odd reason that I always wanted to be in consulting. So one of the lessons I actually learned over my career trajectories is that I should have maybe started my career in a consulting environment, right? So if you know that it's consulting, start your career in a consulting environment. If you know it's academia, start your career in an academic environment. And like Prof Neneh said, sometimes the journey to mapping out your career, it's not a linear journey. So sometimes you need to make room for detours, like I detoured, but just have a sense of, what is the end goal? Where are you now? And what do you practically need to do between then and now? What are the types of companies you need to work at? What are the type of skills you need to have? And I cannot stress this enough: network, network, network. If there are opportunities for you to attend career expos, attend those career expos and be intentional about it. I used to be the type of person who would attend career expos and conferences without intention. Now, if I go to an event, I will look who's going there. I will stalk you on LinkedIn. I will know the type of skills that you have, and I'll be very clear about my objectives going there to say, am I trying to get partnerships? Am I trying to get business? Am I trying to collaborate? Am I trying to get mentorship? Because that gives you like an idea of the type of direction you want the conversation to steer, right? Like if Petrus Mutsipe's wife were to talk and you were at attending a conference there, and she gets off of stage and the only thing you have to say is, oh, I loved your speech. Like, how are you memorable? How are you staying top of mind? Like, know exactly what it is that you want to discuss and know exactly what it is that you want to get out of it. So networking, I cannot stress the importance of it, and mentorship as well. I remember as a young girl growing up, I would always be in a season of, yes, you go to people, can you mentor me? And I realized that in as much as there's nothing wrong with that, people are busy. No one is going to make time for you out of their schedule to come and sit down. Me, I have mentors that they don't even know that they are mentoring me. I remember my boss saying the other day that one thing about me is that I will get the most out of you and you won't even realize it. So I am very intentional. If you're someone that I want to learn from, I'll make sure that I'm in your spaces. I will come and I'll sit down with you. I will have a list of questions that I want to ask you. Hey, can I take you out for coffee? Hey, can. But even in that, in your journeys of networking and getting mentors, always be someone who's authentic and genuine with people. Find the gaps in people's lives. How can you provide value back? It's not always about you and what you have to learn, but it's also what you can give back.
Listen, you are the exact definition of shoot your shot, but also do it with a lot of intention because it absolutely pays off. So thank you so much for that, Ria. I think it's very interesting to see also the similarities, ladies and gentlemen, between the different industries and also between the different spaces where we find ourselves as women in our respective careers. So, Sibahle, we're going to circle to you after this awesome conversation with Ria. It made me all calm. While we're waiting, Sibahle, to get back on screen, we want to ask you, do you believe that you possess the qualities and skills that make you employable beyond your formal qualification? As you heard from Ria, it's not just enough to have that qualification. There are other things that you need to have pocketed with you in order to be employable. Pick your option and press on the submit button. So, Sibahle, you are quite early in your career, as you've mentioned, but also quite a diverse range of things that you are busy with. So, give us a little bit of insight about into your journey, and talk to us about how you decided what to study and how you put your finger on that.
Thank you so much, Sivodia, and inspiring, insightful stuff from the other ladies. So I initially went into university thinking that I want to be a teacher, which is still true to this very day. But I knew that, okay, I wanted to teach, I wanted to work with people. I enjoyed education because I was so attached to, for example, my English teacher, my drama teacher, the soft sciences teachers, because they are the ones that made me feel as if I could contribute something within the classroom. I'm a thinker. I loved thinking. So I wanted to mirror that. And I pictured myself being sort of like Miss Honey from Matilda, teaching and caring and just nurturing. So I decided to enroll for BEd, Bachelor of Education, and I was majoring in life sciences and English, but it was on Qwaqwa campus because my mother and I had just moved from KZN to Qwaqwa because Qwaqwa is home for her after a separation with my father. And so it seemed as if it was the more plausible option to just, study from home. But I was in boarding school before that, so I had learned a sense of independence. So working from home, or rather studying from home, was quite difficult for me. And also the degree itself, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, but I knew that I wasn't passionate about life sciences. Life sciences was like at the bottom of my subjects in high school. And one thing about me and one thing about, being in the arts is that you are tending to your passions and you're aware of the things that you love. And I wanted to be honest with myself and say, you know what, I don't love this thing, but I still want to teach. And I think I want to be a drama teacher. I have never been the most confident or outspoken person. Even when we did drama at school, I wasn't, the shining star. I had colleagues who are now colleagues because they are thriving within the industry, but I was never that. But I didn't understand why I wanted to study drama. I just knew it's something that I wanted to do because I loved working with people and I loved how it made me feel and the impact of storytelling, how it impacted me and how I wanted to relay that as well to others. So I then enrolled myself for drama and theatre here at the University of the Free State. I moved from BEd and I had a lot of pushback because obviously we know that having a drama degree, unfortunately, does not guarantee that you will be successful within the industry. I'm part of an industry where you can be an influential person on social media and you can get a gig. And you being an untrained person might never, get those opportunities. So it was a scary thing for my family. It was a scary thing for my friends. And unfortunately, the echoed sentiments when I was moving to drama and theatre was that I would land up on the streets. That's one of the last things that I heard and that I was told is that this is not going to take you far. You're not going to go far. So I had that drive as well to make it work and make my degree matter. So then I moved aside, and because I had that thing in my head that, I'm going to land up on the streets, because I know the competitive degree and industry that I'm going into, but I know my end goal is going to a classroom and transform the life of students and young people. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to prove that it is possible, right? So with my first year, I took stock of the things that I had. I said, okay, I'm here now. I have residence placement, which means that I have a network and a community of people. There's subcommittees here. There's people who have connections, who know officers, there's leaders in the space who are in postgrad, whatever the case may be. And I was like, I'm in this environment. I'm not the most confident, outspoken person, but I'm going to allow myself to be molded and shaped by the environment because I want to make something of myself. I need to put food on the table. It's also important for me, and I think it's just because I'm a gender studies scholar, so my context really does inform the decisions that I make. I had a single mother at the time, so I was fortunate enough to have NSFAS, but we all know that sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes you're required to give more than what you have. So I said, okay, I see there's leadership, there's IFCOM. Let me see if I can volunteer. I volunteered for Kosi Act, knew nothing about like environmental things, but I wanted to be a part of something. I wanted to build my experience as well now. Even though it had nothing to do with drama and theater, those experiences allowed for me to then transform and kind of marry those with my field of work and use those skills because I was used to working with people. After that, I ran for leadership within the house, RC culture, which then expands your knowledge. And then I moved on to RC Prime. And then I was now at the end of my degree. Oh, before that, third year film in drama and theater, you get to choose what you want to specialize in. Do you want to specialize in acting, theater making, whatever the case may be? And I knew that I was interested in performing. I was interested in mostly the theory of drama. But because it was my last year with my bursary, I decided, you know what, Sibahle, learn something new and go take film. Even though you're not a technical person, be under the tutelage of someone new, which was Dr. Chris Foster, so that you can milk. He loved saying, and I'm echoing the sentiments now from the other speakers, wherever you are, milk the opportunities. And Dr. Chris Foster always used to say, remove all distractions. And right now you are in the space, make sure that you capitalize on the space. So I did film. I was in my little bubble. I was, editing. I was learning new things that I've never done that I knew I might not use later on in life, but it was valuable for me because last year on NSFAS, I want to make the most. I want to expand my skills. Okay, I have leadership, I have drama, and film, it's technical. Who knows where I'll land up in life, right? So yeah, I really, really did, double down on that, and I focused. And I was fortunate enough to even get academic recognition on a faculty level. I got best film student for someone who's not the most technical person. And then I also got the Elsa Krantz Medal for best artistic achievement within the faculty of the humanities, because I was a well-rounded student who would want to represent her classmates, who would go to leadership things, who would attend events. I was doing everything, because I knew that at the end of my degree, I didn't want to be left with a big question mark on what else to do. And because I knew that I'm in this competitive job industry, I need to find ways in which I can make it work and employ an entrepreneurial mindset to make that work. All right, so now I am at the end of my BA. Drama and theatre arts, and it's a question of, okay, Sibahle, but you said you wanted to be a teacher. Yes, I still wanted to be a teacher. Are you gonna enroll for a PGCE? But circumstances, the only funding that was available for me was the university funding that funds your honors. So I decided, you know what, it's fine. I will do that because I want to also try something new, which is theatre making and voice and speech. And this goes back to what Usisria was saying. What makes you stand out? I think it was Sister and Sister Sanet from your peers. And I took voice and speech, which not a lot of people take, and a lot of people kind of go away from. I have a lisp. I had no business doing voice and speech, but I took it because it gave me the opportunity to work with students, facilitate a group of students, and also have teaching practice because I was building my portfolio. I knew that I wanted to teach. I just didn't know when and how it was going to happen. Then I took theatre making because throughout my undergrad, I would coach SAD, I would coach stage door. So for me, it was always a thing of, okay, so in class in your first year and second year, you've learned this. Now apply it and test it out while you are still in the space to see if it works or not. So I would constantly coach. And then I was doing theatre making and I was looking for a job. And I remember because leadership is now done, you kind of out in the open. And I sent Melusi Sihlulu from the Arts and Culture Office an email. And I actually did a lot. I printed my portfolio of evidence and I was knocking on people's doors and I was visiting people, setting appointments. People were at home. It was December 2022. It just graduated. And I was having meetings with people, walking them through my portfolio. And most of those people said, we can't help you. There's no vacancies at the moment. But later on down the process, because they had my portfolio, they would say, hey, I have something for you, or they would refer me to people, or even put me in group chats with theatre makers, or whatever the case may be. So in this year, I sent Melusi Sihlulu an email. Melusi, here's my CV, here's the work that I've done institutionally. I'm just a girl with a passion. I want to work, and I am multifaceted. You know, I'm good with administrative work. I am self-reliant. You know, I'm all of these things. And obviously, I'm also very artistic. And she told me, unfortunately, I don't have a job for you. And it was fine and fair and well. But then a few months down the line, they needed to do a production. She wanted to do a student production, which was a production that was going to encompass all students from different faculties. And she actually initially wanted to do Sarafina, like Sarafina. And I said, but we just had protests now on campus. Why don't we have our own version of Sarafina? Because it still keeps happening. And I was 4 months into doing theater making, and I said, I want to test out and apply these skills. And she said, you send me your portfolio. Do you want to hop onto the project with me? And I hopped onto the project, and we auditioned students from different faculties. And I'm so proud to say that most of these students didn't have not an interest in the arts, but they didn't have a foot in the arts, or weren't like avid contributors to the arts. And now most of them have started, like one of them has a cheerleading squad. One of them is now at UWC studying drama, you know, because of the experience that we had as well. So it's just been lovely. And then that same production where I, you know, shot my shot was attended by Dr. Mbongeni Ngema, which was amazing. It was very amazing. And it wasn't about does he love the show, but it was about I was brave enough to put on a work of theater and have it be seen by an industry expert. You know, I was working my way towards being a good theater maker because that's exactly what I want to be. So then I was fortunate enough to be a resident assistant also in the senior res that I was staying in. And now it was the end of my honors degree. And once again, what are you going to do? So at this point, I forgot to mention, my research proposal in honors was on feminism. And I got connected with such a lovely supervisor, or in the drama department, we called them study leaders, Dion van Niekerk. And he was facilitating or lecturing a class on feminism to the final year students. It's one of our units. And because my research was on feminism, and I was very deliberate about telling them, this is what I want to do. I want to teach. I'm interested in that. And as Cicely said, you stalk, obviously, in the safe way. But every single year, I would check, Sibahle was a CTL. I go on LinkedIn. How did she get there? Because I want to see how she got there. And I'll be very clear about where I want to be as well. So Dion said, listen, you are interested in feminism. You are doing your research in feminism. You showed me that you have a foundational understanding of this. And he was understanding of his context and why, and said, you are a Black woman, so the students would relate to you a bit more than me telling them about feminism. So come, let's give it a shot, you know. And I conducted my first class straight. I was in my honors, introduction to feminism to the final year students, and I'm now going to my third year of doing that. It's seasonal every September, and then the next year he trusted me with doing theater and feminism, and then I could start pitching ideas as well. And this year we're taking the final years to the Film Monument. You know, I did a whole PowerPoint presentation for him, telling him why it's, you know, worth it and whatever the case may be. But okay, it was the end of my honors. And for me, my thing was, I don't want to go home empty-handed. So I will keep upskilling myself however I can. And at this point, I knew that I was interested in doing gendered work within my art. I knew that I was interested in doing administrative work. I knew that I enjoyed leading. So I tried to see, how do I marry all of those things, and what is then my next step? And then the next opportunity that I had was to then enroll for my master's. You know, it felt like the next natural step to do. But then I was very deliberate in saying, right now, take the opportunity to try to grow within a space that feels maybe uncomfortable, right? And then do your master's in gender studies because you want to know more about the people that you are speaking on behalf of, right? There's gender everywhere. So I enrolled for my master's in gender studies with the assistance of the university's bursary as well. And that's what I'm doing right now. And I then applied to be a Blackboard buddy. And it was, hey guys, you see these things, every communication you get, read it. It was this blurry screenshot that I got. That's a Blackboard, just submit your CV here. And I submitted it anyways, and I got the job, and it was a short contract, but such a fruitful experience because that's why I'm still at CTL to this very day. And then once the contract had ended, I was unemployed for 2 months. I went to PACOF's audition for a show. I was in a musical. And I was one of the leading ladies. So I was also excited because I could work with the director, Ule Botuko from Joburg. So I really wanted to form that connection with him. And they run a company that side as well. So I did that for 2 months. And then I applied to be a teaching assistant. And I got that as well. I was so excited to be working with students again. And within a month, I then got the job as an assistant researcher for graduate attributes and digital skills and competencies. And that is what I'm doing now. Yes. And then with my artistic work throughout this whole process, I think the major pivotal point for me was in 2022, when I wanted to now start producing my own work because I just done a Broken Sarafina. I knew it was something that I love. And as part of my course content, we had to produce work as well. And I started following on social media, like people that I obviously inspired me, and then theater companies and the National Arts Council to see how can I get money to do what I want to do. And I asked one of the lecturers, Oliver Bonga, to help me with an application to the National Arts Council because I had an idea for a show. And then I got the funding. I was 21, sitting on so much money that I didn't know what to do with, but it was such a lovely opportunity for me because I even got to collaborate with artists and employ some young people as well when we did that production. So that was my first professional production at PACOS, Wait as the Sun Wait. And yeah, I've just been trying to find opportunities for that to happen as well. I then applied for something called Theatre in the Dark at Cape Town. So I took my show that I did in my honors year and I went to the drama department. I said, listen, I'm putting your guys' name out there and I'm using students and I'm alumni. Can you please support us in getting the show to go to Cape Town? And they supported us with that. And then I wrote a script that I put in to TechSmart, which is an initiative by Gaga. And then I was able to network in that and present my script and my idea for the first time. Scary experience. But with my craft, I'm consistently just trying to put myself in places, like Cecilia said, to network where I still have my passion and my drive and still finding ways to make my degree matter. But at this point where I am with my 9 to 5, I'm using the skills that I've taken from drama and theater and employing them within what I'm doing on a daily basis. So that has been my career journey. Yeah.
Listen. If milking every opportunity was a person, that would be used, Mahle. So listen, I loved listening to your story and how you just never gave up. I think a lot of people tend to attribute the statement of that doesn't pay to Black families. I think having worked in university, you realize it's not just Black families, it's families across different races. And I mean, we've listened to parents say, my child cannot go into drama because we are farmers at home, and they need to take that. And having people be brave enough, just like you, and say, this is who I am. This is the shot I'm going to shoot. And I know I'm going to land among the stars. And especially, I think your story is beautiful. And it's great to see that you have landed amongst the stars. There's a lot of questions in the chat, the chats that have been coming up. And we exactly a little bit over our time. We are in our Q&A segment, and our last poll just popped up. Before we move to the Q&A segment, we're going to ask you to just submit your last poll and get your questions ready. We want to ask you to rate your confidence and ability to network with different stakeholders when given an opportunity. Are you very confident? Are you moderately confident? Are you somewhat confident? Or are you slightly confident? Or you just saying, you know what, I don't even know how to say hello. So meaning I'm not confident at all. Select your option and click on the submit button. I see already about 17 of you have responded and would like to hear from the rest of you in the session. Ladies and gents, we have reached our Q&A segment and we'd love to hear from you. Are there any brave ones in this webinar who would like to ask a question? How you do that is by raising your virtual hand. Our lovely team in the background will enable your microphone and you would be able to ask your question. Alternatively, if you're not able to speak, you can type your question in the chat and we will answer your questions. I'm going to ask the team to signal for me if there's anybody that has a question for us. I see there's already in our Q&A section on the chat from the panelists, Peter wants to know, do you have mentees under your arms and how best to persuade your inspirational person to be your mentor, being mindful that they do have busy schedules? That is one of the questions that we have from Pizzo. Any of our panelists can tackle this one. Do you have any mentees? And how can one best approach a mentor or someone that you find inspirational in mentoring you? So who from our panel wants to take that question?
I can take the question.
Go for it, Ria. Let's hear from you.
So in terms of getting your mentor, in terms of mentoring you, I mean, like it was mentioned, people are busy, people have busy schedules, but you find that if you ask, people are not opposed to helping or to mentoring you.
Mm-hmm.
I would want to spin it around and say, what value can you provide your mentor? And I'll give a practical example. When I had my first mentor, Austato Mohoto, she was very busy, had 3 kids, running multiple businesses. And I knew that there's no way in the world that this lady is going to have the time to sit with me at a coffee shop and mentor me, right? So I had to make intentional strides, sometimes going over to her house, helping her with small things that she needed. And it looks different for everyone, but
Yeah.
because I knew that I had a hunger and I wanted to learn, I would go to her house and say, do you need me to help you with your kids? What do you need me to help you with? Because I knew that by being in this lady's presence, just hearing her talk and watching her, that would sort of like give me the type of overview that I would need to see, or just by shadowing her, I would learn the type of skills that I need to learn. Sometimes I'd even pop in by her office and say, hey, I bought you a coffee. I know you've had quite a busy schedule. You probably haven't had lunch yet. Here's some lunch. You understand? So it's small things like that to say, how do I add value in a way that enables my mentor to sort of like go, oh, there's this girl, she's always here. Like they basically don't have a chance or a choice but to mentor you. And then I think even with phenomenal women, that's how the conversation started, because she could see that, okay, I'm actually very interested in what she has to say. I'm interested in the type of skills that she has to offer. And sometimes mentoring in a coffee shop doesn't work, and sometimes you need hands-on on the work experience. So I think her putting me on in terms of phenomenal women opened a gateway and sort of like gave me the practical technical skills. But in terms of starting the relationship, I also had to pour into her in the same way that I expected her to pour into me.
Thanks for that. I think that's very important. Pursuing someone and not just waiting for them to get onto it. Any of our panelists want to jump onto that before we move on to the next question? Prof. Neneh?
Yeah, I think I just want to add to what Ria has already touched on. And I think I shared an example to say that you need to be intentional, but remember, it's about giving first before taking. So if you have the habit of, what can I give? And I told you, I think I did not mention this part, but when I got to Italy and I saw the person I've always admired so many years from the internet, her work, that enabled me leave my kids for 2 months. I spent 2 months in the US. And before I got there, as an academic, one way to also grow your profile is who you publish with. So I knew that publishing with Diane Wesh, actually, she was doing me a favor to publish with me. So I wrote that paper and she put her name as second author. Yeah, she corrected here and there. I did all the work. But you know what? When I look at the citations I've gotten from the papers I've written with her, that is what has kept me up there very far. And you see the people now from the US approaching me to say, can we write a paper together? So it's about, I'll advise everyone to say, stop looking at life about what can I get? Start asking, what can I give? The more you give, the more you're going to receive. And like Ria said, nobody has time. So it's always about what can I do for you? So I'll just encourage the younger version to say, first of all, take the first step. Because if you don't even take the first step to say, what can I offer you, you would never know. And often you think a lot about failure, but you fail to see that a person who has never failed is someone who has never tried anything. So often you go out, things wouldn't work out the way they planned. But you know what? The fact that you tried, that's already, you should applaud yourself. So sometimes I'll tell you, talk to your younger version of yourself. Speak with a little bit of care to say, yes, I did try. I did not get it right, but keep trying and trying and trying. So when I go onto LinkedIn, I have specific people I follow these days. I don't follow everyone. What can you offer to me? And when you comment, you post, I come and comment on it. And then thereafter, I could send you a message to say, I pick you up on this conversation. You mentioned this and this and that. And then I give you my take. So I don't just get into you now to say, what can you give me? But I just pick your brains on the conversation. And as time go on, I could say, okay, I have this opportunity. Do you want to be part of it? I get it to my networks to write papers together or to be part of an event. So those are little things I'll tell the younger version of yourself to say, learn to speak up, like I said, show up, try something, because not everything would go on as, especially like Ria is saying, often sometimes some people will actually say, no, I don't have time for you. But again, be very rounded in terms of sometimes you're looking for a mentor, try it across different spaces, because sometimes the skill you think you don't need is what you actually need for the future. So I'll tell you to say, write a list of people across different spectrums of what you think your career could be. Think a little bit broad. And I like what the previous speaker said. She had a career from everything to anything. So be all-rounded in the type of mentors you want, because there's no such thing as a skill that you're going to lose. You'll never know when you will need it. So, and even from your peers, you can learn from them. That's what I would say. Even your friends can be a mentor to you. And when I presented classes, I tell students, you say, you come to class, you can't even tell your friend good morning. But you don't even know that that friend of yours that you haven't said good morning to actually works in an organization. And tomorrow you go for an interview and you see them and then they say, yeah, I saw you in class, but she was never nice to me. So don't only think the mentor can be a high profile person. It could be anybody around you. So start with what you have and then grow to another level. That would be my 2 cents to add to what Ria just said.
Absolutely important. I think one of the gaps we tend to think or we miss is the connection between peers. One of my mentors used to say, you never know who you're sitting next to. That could be your future boss, or the one that funds your entrepreneurial venture, or the one that just connects you to your next big opportunity. So I love that. Absolutely good advice. There's also a question in the chats. Am I missing the questions now? There's so many of them that have come up. I'm just going to ask. Oh, so Prof. Neneh, here's also a question for you. What inspired you to pursue an academic career, and how do you also promote academic excellence and innovation in the institution?
Oh my goodness. I'll tell you that the career in academia was all by chance. That I should put it out there. I never saw myself being in academia at all. But with a PhD, you start thinking to say, but okay, what do you do with it? I went on to the industry. I worked for 1 year. And then the 1 year that I spent at the university, that 1 year after getting my PhD, I presented classes. Then I realized that, that wasn't bad at all. That was something that I could do for a living. And the students, I presented entrepreneurship because that's something I do. And I found it was really fun. And I also had my own business. So when 2016, I got that opportunity to come back, I was like, you know what? I can do it. But again, I like the research part. So that was also a way of showing my work out there. So I took it and I've grown into the work. I've really loved it and I'm learning every day. And management was the last thing I even thought about. And I think that's a journey for another story for another day. And that was the last thing I thought about because when that opportunity came, they said, go for it. I said, no. I was literally pushed into it, thinking I'm not good enough. I don't have the skills. I'm very young. I was just in my early 30s, I think 30. I was just all trembling and everything. But you know what? I took it. So I'll just tell someone to say you never know what way life will take you to, but whatever comes up or shows up, just give in your best work. In terms of innovation, there's a whole lot that I've done. When I was HOD, we also had what we call the Startup Initiative. So every Wednesday, we had to mentor students to teach them about how to start your business. And even yesterday, I'm no longer there in the department, but yesterday I was coaching students online, the people who are part of the ED competition. I spent yesterday coaching them. And 2 weeks back, I was part of this Ellen Gray competition for first year students. I was even there with Evodia. We left there after 8:30, just helping students. So there's a lot of things that I do. And even in my faculty, it's about promoting research. So we've got a lot of research initiatives that I've organized for the faculty, symposiums, we've got writing retreats, we've got supervision training. So there's a whole lot of those things I'm organizing. And also privately, there's a whole lot I do to empower women on other works and other platforms that I do speak on there. So from time to time, I'll share it, but I'm usually not the type that will go very loud, but I do share it.
Thank you so much for that, Prof. And I know just having watched your work and having watched what you do, amazing work that you guys are doing in the faculty. And I think such a good role model for many of us that are looking up to you. I want to maybe move a little bit to you, Sibahle and Sanet, especially because you are much closer to the students as well. How did you deal with some of the not so nice moments that come with moving from one job to another and sometimes being unemployed for a period of time? That is one of the questions in the chat. Either one of you can tackle that.
Ooh. I love this question. I think that one of the things about doing what you want to do is that not everybody is always going to see your vision. There will be times when your peers will point out towards your failures or what they perceive to be failures because they don't have your map ahead. So they can't see what you're working towards. And I think that once you embrace that you are sometimes going to be on this journey by yourself with only a few of your family or friends supporting you, then it becomes easier. I have this motto. I know it's very cliche. It's 3 letters, but it spells ACE. So the A is basically just embracing, like the A is for like basically applying myself to where I am in my life, just accepting where I am, then allowing myself that opportunity to map out what it is that I want to do and where it is that I would want to go. Then also accepting that I'm not always going to have wins. Sometimes I'm also going to have losses, and then adapting to my environment. And I think that's very challenging, especially when you are going through the midst of it. Then my next letter is C. So I commit myself to whatever it is that I wanted to do. And I know that this is also quite challenging, but I think once you've decided what your goal is, I think that once you know what your what is, it becomes much easier to deal with. And then obviously embracing that it's not going to be a linear path, accepting or embracing your growth, embracing the feedback that you'll be getting, and also executing is very important. So those are the 3 letters I live by. ACE, it is apply yourself, accept where you are, allow yourself to be where you are, commit yourself, execute, and then embrace those flows that will be coming through life. And I think that that's one of the things. But I also think that it is okay. I think that we live in a society where you're not always allowed to feel what you're feeling. It's okay to feel embarrassed. It's okay to feel ashamed. It's okay to feel all of those feelings. But at the end of the day, like once you get to work through that pain, once you get to work through all of those challenges and stuff, there is nothing more rewarding being at the end of it and saying, yeah, like 6 years ago, it made no sense to anyone why I quit my job. But now I get to say, like, I'm a tenured lecturer, I get to teach, I get to supervise, I get to go to all of these amazing conferences, I get to shake hands with like some people that I never thought I would meet. I mean, like, I love like a lot of the journalists, because some of them also have like a background in politics. I mean, I got to meet Vuyo. Sometimes you get to meet all of these different people who you've always looked up to. For me, it was Den Moyane. And then like you get to form relationships with those people, and you'd find out that sometimes they had a similar struggle or similar struggles to you. But again, like, if you just push through all of that, like it will all be worth it. It's always worth it at the end.
I'm also adopting ACE as one of my values. Absolutely love that, Sanet. Sibahle, I want to ask you a different question, and we're going to wrap up with this question because I see we are way over Q&A segment time. So if you can wrap this up for me in 2 minutes, I'll invite you back, I promise. Sibahle, you, in your story, also highlighted, a couple of moments where you've had to face rejection, knocking on multiple doors and just hearing, nope, there's no opportunity now. Nope, not good enough for this. Nope, this is not going to work this time. How did you deal with that repeated rejection without letting it affect your confidence?
I think this ties in closely to what or as Sanet had said. This morning I was speaking to the students at the humanities faculty because they had entrepreneurship day, and I put up a slide with like all the emails that I'd gotten saying no, saying no, saying no, saying no. And central to how I deal with it is, like Sanet said, you need to embrace those feelings of rejection and disappointment firstly. But within my discipline, we have something that we say on stage, especially live theater, you fail confidently. You fail confidently. You know that, okay, I did fail. I did fall on my feet. And it's quite difficult when your failure aligns with the fact that you need to put food on the table. There's failing and getting rejection, and then there's just not getting opportunities to be able to put food on the table. But then it goes back to taking stock of what you have. You know, when I got here, I took stock of what I have. I have a singing voice. I have hands. If I wanted to bake, I can bake. How can I mitigate my struggles and my circumstances with the things that are at my disposal? So just tying in with what she said, failing confidently and acknowledging those feelings of failure and realizing that those rejections and disappointments, they may feel as if they're happening directly to you and you're the only one that is experiencing this grand failure, but it's not a unique experience, and not a unique experience in the sense that history and civilization has proven to us that time and time again people have fallen and gotten back up again. So that's how I did. I cry a lot. But then in my crying, I already have an action plan because there's no time. There's really no time to put your head down. You need to really look at the end goal and try your best. So yeah, that's how I mitigate that and get through that.
Child, you ate that up, as the 2000s say. So I really want to give a huge virtual applause to our panelists. I wish we had more time to unpack your stories. Very powerful stories, very powerful and inspiring journeys that all of you have been through. And I'm certainly taking many of these lessons into my personal toolbox as I navigate my career and journey at this institution and also in other spaces. I hope those of you on the call with us, or those of you who are watching this recording, have also taken some inspiration for your own journey, that rejection is not the end, and that you can accept the things that you are, but don't stay there. Get up, get a goal. But what I also loved from Professor Neneh is get the roadmap in your head, not just in your head, print it out, see it, let it be your Bible. How do I get that promotion? Commit to the plan, because it's not just going to come falling on your lap. And also not being afraid to take the risk, as Ria highlighted, in pausing, sometimes without any opportunities knocking at your door, but staying true to that which is already packaged inside of you and pulling that out and saying, I'm going to pivot and make this work. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been absolutely amazing. To our panel, it has been a remarkable conversation that I wish we can repeat. Before we leave the platform, I just want to encourage you, if you're a University of the Free State student, there is a lot of support that's been tailor-made for you specifically and personalized for you. One of them is the GPS Contact Center. You can get a hold of them on 051-401-9111 and you press option 2. Alternatively, you can email them on gps@ufs.ac.za. They also do have a WhatsApp line if you want to chat to any of our success coaches, and that's 087-240-6370. If you are in need of any academic advising, remember some of them said they did change their qualifications. If you after today say, I need to find out how do I reroute or how do I align what I'm studying with a passion of mine, you can reach out to our academics advisors on either of our campuses on Bloemfontein. It's advising at ufs.ac.za, Kwakwa campus, advising QQ at ufs.ac.za. If you're on the South Campus, it's advising SC at ufs.ac.za. And remember, you can also reach them or get news of what's happening in the advising space via their Facebook page. If you are in need of tutoring or you want to know if there's any academic support available in your module, you can email us at astep@ufs.ac.za. If also you want to find out about jobs on campus, remember, there is the Career Hub. Go look in your student email, UFS for Life email, find out more about Career Hub, as well as LinkedIn Learning to make sure that you skill up. Remember to also complete our evaluation. We want to know if this webinar was a hit or a miss, or maybe we could do a little bit better. We definitely want to bring all the relevant content and all the relevant speakers to you. Don't worry if you had load shedding or you have something you need to re-listen to. All the sessions are recorded. They'll be sent via email, or you can check it out on our YouTube page. That's Secure the Grad on YouTube. Alternatively, please go follow us on Instagram and repost some of the pearls of wisdom today. We did promise that there are awesome prizes to be won, and our winners today are Buhle Madlala, Kelebogile Molapisi, Tatego Tekwani, Felicia Shangase, and Eldna Lunga. And Elda is always a winner. Elda, you must tell us what's the recipe to winning always. Congratulations to all of you. And here is our calendar of what's up next. We have our Funding Your Grad webinar coming on the 22nd of August. Please, please, please make sure that you join this one. We'll be bringing quite UFS finance, financial aid. We'll be bringing Standard Bank and many other organizations that do talk to students about how they can fund their qualifications outside of normal loans. So please tune into that. We're also speaking accommodation, how you can get accommodation off campus as a student. And on the 12th of September, we have our big careers and entrepreneurship masterclass coming up. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. So just for the month of August, remember our last webinar for this month is Funding Your Grad. And September, we're jumping in with career and entrepreneurship. And then very excited Student Wellness Day. Those of you in your crop tops and tight tights, come join us because wellness is part of how we succeed here at the University of the Free State. Please do check out our emails on what's coming up next. And you can also see the highlights of this webinar by following us on Instagram. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge thank you from me and the technical team in the background. We're looking forward to seeing you in our next webinar, and to our guest speakers, you are amazing. A big heart from us, and this is the end of the webinar. Thank you.